Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 689. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the master of speculation, the duke of the sultan of strategery, the bridge-defying, wakes up every morning preparing to win at comic book bingo because he remains the elder statesman of the podcast, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to talk about Riddler Year One Book 3 and Shazam Fury of the Gods Special Shazamily Matters. Also, Jim, I want to shout out real quick the fact that we have just crossed over 17 years of podcasting. The end of March is always the anniversary of our podcast, and I just want to thank everyone for sticking with us. And Jim, as always, it's great doing this podcast with you.
Oh, always, man. Happy anniversary, my friend. Thank you. Thank you.
As always, we are sponsored by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. What is going on over at DCBService.com?
Well, my favorite words, 50% off. Absolute Preacher, hardcover volume 2, 50% off, $75. Swamp Thing, Green Hell, hardcover, 50% off, $14.99. And Young Alfred, Payne and the Butler, trade paper, 50% off, only $6.49. So thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com. They have their top sellers, and there's some cool DC ones here, like Power Girl, Power Trip Trade Paperback, $39.99, regularly 42% off, only $23.19. Adam Strange Between Two Worlds, Deluxe Edition, $49.99 regularly, 42% off, only $28.99. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support the show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing in today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Reaching melting point. Not sure we can make it.
Our first discussion this episode is going to be of the Riddler Year One Book 3. The writer is Paul Dano. The artist is Stefan Subic. The letterer is Clayton Cowles. Cover by Bill Sienkiewicz. Variant cover by Stefan Subic. Variant cover by Ben Oliver. 125th variant cover by Miko Suayan and Annette Kwok. And Batman created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. And apologies for any name butchery, because this is a book series I've been really enjoying. Black Label, and it does everything that Black Label does. It's an origin of the Riddler from the Batman movie, written by the actor who played the Riddler. So it really gets into his story, and boy, is this one that it benefits from being a multi-book story. I've really enjoyed this one out of the gate. What about you, Jim? What have you been thinking about this one?
Dude, man, I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm really glad that this guy can actually write.
Yes.
Because this was one of those things where this character was so interesting and unique and a different version of who the Riddler we're used to. So diving deep into who this guy is was something I kept getting shocked at myself at how neat this really was and how good this was. This is a level of into the character that I wouldn't expect a normal actor to have. I wouldn't expect an actor to have this kind of in-depth into the mind of who this character is. And again, it kind of shows why he did such a great job with the character in the movie, that he has such a solid understanding of who this guy is. And I don't know how much, if there's much of a ghostwriter involved, or if this was partially, the movie writer created a lot of this and he's putting it on paper. I don't know how much of it is him, whether this is 100% all him. I'm thinking where this Riddler came from, or how much of this was from the movie or whatnot. But this is something that was absolutely brilliant. I'm loving this.
Well, I would imagine, when you're an actor and you get to know a character, I mean, you figure there was a lot going on in that movie, right? And you're playing one of the main characters in there. I'm sure there's a treatment for the character that is part of the movie, true. And, certainly you have to do a nod to the film itself and to the film universe that's being created, because we know that that's leading to spin-offs and things like that. And there has to be some coordination there. But this is a guy who got to know this character, and you really see that in this one. I really enjoyed that, like, he is an outcast. He's been bullied. He's been misunderstood. He's got a lot of reasons to question the world at large, right? Life has not been good to him. He has, we get to see more of his relationship with Thomas Wayne and what Thomas Wayne meant to him at that point in time. But he's this kid, this guy who really has been wronged throughout his whole life. Even at work, it's like, he's a worker bee, and he gets referred to at some point in time as Rain Man because of the fact that he's so good with numbers and so good with seeing patterns and things that are going on. You get the idea where the whole Riddler persona comes from. And I really enjoyed every aspect of that in this film, where he was, in this story, which felt like a film, to be honest, the fleshing out, who this character is. And I really, really loved that aspect of it. I even like when you kind of see his, at a certain point in time, you see so much of his nuances and his issues and the writing, right? Where it was, he's trying to motivate himself to see that he is somebody, but there is that part of himself that is saying that he's not. He's beating himself down, but then finding those words of saying you do matter. And it's an interesting sort of study into somebody who life has made him question himself and question whether or not he can and should like himself, much less liking the world at large. I loved that. It was really, really smart, because I feel like I get him and I understand why he feels the way he does. Such a compelling character. And every time he thinks he understands who's pushing him down, it unfolds into, oh my gosh, there's like another layer to this, and it's the next person. And what is this company that I'm actually working for?
The paranoia that he has, and just the growth and birth of it, and just the level of it, to the point where I completely understand where this character was in the movie. I am understanding why he targeted who he targeted, why he did what he did. A lot of times when you look at a lot of the villains, you're sitting there saying, why would you kill all these, these innocent people? Why? Because so many innocent people, he had his specific targets that he was going after.
Right.
But you think back to, like, in the movie when he flooded it and how many people died and how many people would have died, and just the mass destruction that he would have done. That's always something that gets me going with a lot of the bad guys and the villains in movies, that you're like, okay, I can see if you have your specific targets going after, but what's so much on the collateral damage? I loved how you really start seeing how he looks at the city itself, how Gotham City itself is just this parasite. And one of the little scribbles he did, the more dangerous this becomes, the more I'm drawn to it. I feel alive, but then my solar plexus tightens. I'm stricken with fear. The horror of this city lurks everywhere. And every time when his one neighbor is talking about the rats with the festers and the rats with the diseases are everywhere, and I'm 100% saying, okay, you're seeing where this is all coming from with this guy, and even like how he's like stricken with fear inside his place, unable to go, but then he fleshes out for work, or he does this or that, and I love those moments. I absolutely love seeing and understanding who this guy is. And it's one of those things where you're like, when you start understanding the villain, yeah, he is the villain of the story. He's still the villain, but you understand where he's coming from. You're understanding why he was targeting the different people he was targeting. And I love that about this.
Even the main boss of his company, who is like, he thinks, and it's very clear, he thinks that by giving Edward certain tasks, giving him certain projects, he is getting what he needs out of him, but also guiding and controlling what he does with the information and how he reacts to it. He thinks he's in front of him when Edward is watching him. He knows what the situation is. I like this, you see in the opening part where he goes, I know now what I must become. Nothing yet. The more dangerous this becomes, the more I'm drawn into it. I feel alive. But then my solar plexus tightens, and I am stricken with fear. The horror of this city lurks everywhere. And it really is, he's seeing this as a statement on the city itself. Mr. June's daughter, and that whole pathetic story with that, where Mr. June was embezzling money from this, this group, this underground group, for the purpose of just trying to get himself and, more importantly, his daughter out of the Gotham and onto a better life. Not only was he killed for his actions, but his daughter was forced to take his place, and because she has a kid, and they're using that and holding it over. Just this twisted, dark world that is Gotham. I love the fleshing out of this world's Gotham in this series, where I'm like, okay, plays with the same rules that we see in the comics, its own little twisted version. But that was something that was very atmospheric about the Batman movie, was the fact that I got to understand that this world has some very, very dark rules, and it's overwhelming. Very big in scope and scale, that Batman can't be everywhere. And sometimes his shadow has to handle what he can't physically, because he can't be in multiple places. This creates that same sort of image of, this is big. It's bigger than Edward. It's bigger than Edward can handle on his own. But he can target certain things if he's watching all of it and he's taking a bird's eye view of the big picture. And I really love that scope and scale of this.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And one of the things I loved about just the breakdown of everything you're saying with Mr. June, the daughter, and all the different, just the money laundering they're going, the embezzlement, all the financial crime stuff that this book has in it. And you know me, I always get a little yay with when we see stuff on money laundering, especially when people do it right. Mm-hmm. This right here is a really good lesson on money laundering, by the way. This guy knows what he talked to somebody, or he knows something about, the process. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing, where this is a very realistic usage of money laundering, of using the different businesses, using just the way they structured this, and even throwing out the terms like Smurf. Smurfs is a term that's actually a true, honest money laundering term that we use to describe these people. The people who are actually the people who are just bringing in the money, who are actually doing the deposits, who are doing the transactions. It's a real term that was used. And when I read it, I was like, oh, that is cool that they put that in there. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was something I really enjoyed about this, was that kind of atmosphere. I also got the idea, too. Now, that person that he's talking to in the shadows, that's him, right? Like, he's talking to himself? Am I right on that?
That's what I kept thinking throughout this. But again, I'm not 100% certain. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the brilliant thing of this. A lot of times when he sees shadows and when he sees the image of the bat, and he's talking to that that guy at the doorway, is he really seeing this stuff? We don't know for certain. I think that is something that is one of the neat things about this story, that there is that question. Because when the story was first started reading, I was thinking, okay, yeah, that's just one of those, one of those people, one of those eccentric people that they have in Gotham. But as the story's going on, I'm thinking less and less that it's an actual person, that it's just in his own mind creating it.
One of the interesting things about this story was, so there's this renewal, and he's researching into it, and he uncovers something and gives it to his immediate supervisor, who then uses it as a way, he's using everything that Edward's giving him as a way to kind of advance his own career, right? Using Edward as a stepping stone. What is driving Edward nuts is the reason how they're trying to hold him down is by making it seem like he doesn't really know what he's seeing. Yeah. He's made a mistake. There's something that's wrong. They're trying to control him by basically lying to him and making it seem like he's misguided, when he knows the numbers aren't lying to him, and he's double checking his facts. And that's why he won't let it go. It's this need to be right. And, we all have certain elements of that. I know I certainly do. But this is a cautionary tale of maybe loosen up and let it go a little bit. I love the way it does bring in characters like Salvatore Moroni into this, and he's he's following the trail. He's following the number trail to see how it all links together, how it all links back to Gotham City Police Department. It links back to Drops. It links back to Mr. June, to Mr. S, Falcone, and just kind of going all the way. Like, everything's all interlinked. And it was great.
Yeah, oh, God, yeah, I love that. I love the concept of follow the money, follow the numbers. And again, that's his strength. That's what he can do. That's what he knows. He can look at numbers differently than other people. And, when you're doing auditing, when you're doing, financial crimes, when you're doing that, you do have to look at things a little bit different sometimes. Because, people who get into these different types of fields are a lot of law enforcement, former law enforcement, retired, they're investigative people. But also the other side of it are accountants who don't want to just be an accountant, who don't want to just be a number pusher. They look at things a little bit differently, and that's one of the things that Edward is. He's a numbers guy. He's an accountant. He doesn't have the big flashy degrees, but he's got the mind for it, and right here, I love how his bosses and all the people above him, and his one buddy, who completely used all his info to get a nice promotion for himself, they all underestimate him. And part of it is because he's a little bit odd. He's a little bit quirky guy. Part of it is because he doesn't have the flashy degree. He doesn't have the, I don't want to say backbone, but he really doesn't stand up for himself. But all in all, he really sees what's going on. And over these past issues, you start seeing the growth of him as a person. And he's not going to be the guy who in the office stands up and says, hey, I think this. Instead, he's going to use his own shadows hiding in. And it's kind of neat seeing a really growth of the comparison of him and the Bat. Because in the movie, he really thought he and Bat were working together. And here you're understanding where he got that mindset from, where he started thinking, hey, I'm part of Team Bat. The Bat's with me. I'm working with him. I'm like Batman here. And this is one of those things where it was really neat seeing him go that route where in his mind, again, he's one of those villains that he doesn't see himself as the villain of the story. And I love seeing that.
Well, he's also making his own Batman legend, right? Where he's crafted his own story of what he thinks Batman is and what he thinks he is and what he thinks their relationship is. You start to see the glimpses here that he feels they're already working together.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting key critical moment. It's like, where did that begin? Because the film alludes to that and becomes such a key piece. And here you see that just being further developed where he feels like this is a relationship that's already in play. That in some ways Batman's helping him and he's helping Batman in what they're doing. It's a cool relationship development here. Or at least in his version of Batman. In
his mind, there's this great relationship that they're going back and forth. Mm-hmm. He's a partner. They're working together. And I love seeing that because it's not really happening. But again, it's kind of neat, to get an understanding and a glimpse where this guy's brain has been before the movie. I'll be honest with you, this series has really made me want to rewatch the movie again.
Yep. So Enigma.org is an interesting thing too, where he's got this site where he's normally quiet and just listening to the reactions there. He's reading the reactions, I should say. And he's been starting to ask a little bit more, talk a little bit more, be a part of that a little bit more. Developing an identity there. And as that identity flashes out, it starts to match what he's seeing in this world, which is pretty compelling too. Speaking of this world, the artwork in this is incredible. I love the style. I love the shading. I love, everything from, I'm looking at the vehicles right now and just kind of, just the way that they use shapes and style. And this is a very stylized book that I feel is very complimentary of, it's not trying to be identical to the movie, but it's trying to capture the atmosphere of the movie. And that's, I feel atmospherically, it not only in the writing, but in the visual styling, it feels like it belongs in that film universe. That's pretty key in this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And every time we talk about a good Bat story, we always say Gotham has to be a character. 100% you're seeing that in this artwork, where, again, it's got that It's that dark and gritty when it needs to be dark and gritty, but even the moments where it pops, the sun, there's still a little bit of a haze over it. And it still gives you that, that feeling of what Gotham's like. Yeah. I think that for me was a really cool usage of the heavy dark moments to really accentuate in when you have these light moments, but they're still not bright light. It's got to have that haze. It's got to have that grime. It's got to have that grit, that is Gotham. And I love that.
It's interesting how you get to see these pages. I like the pages where he gets in his head. And you start to see multiple panels, and then they lead almost into that circular text where you see him almost kind of being overwhelmed in a journey inside himself, and you see the confusing puzzle that's in his brain. All those fronts paying into renewal, but why? Night turns to weeks, nothing clicking, nothing coming together. Memories rising, my mind begins to eat me. Why? Just seeing what's going on in that mind as he can't let go of the mystery. He's got to solve it. He's got to understand the whole entire picture. And you see how when he finally gets there, and finally starts to solve what's going on, why this guy would go on a murder spree, right?
Yes. Oh, God, yeah. And again, it's the spiral, with the physical circular, the spiraling out of control, the going down the rabbit hole, however terminology you want to use it. I love how it does show that, but also love just how much of a commitment this is. This isn't just an overnight adventure. This is multiple weeks, months on end of him doing this research, him diving into the numbers, scrubbing through multiple years of physical books, the physical records, not just the computer documents, not just the film and the fiche. It's the actual opening up a ledger and going through line by line of the ledger. Yeah. That right there is just a level of commitment, that is ridiculous, because I'll tell you right now, financial records are boring. Flat out, and it's very repetitive, repetitious. And when you're going through line after line, it can drive you mad just going through and breaking down the different lines of a simple, transactions. When you start diving into the level that he's going, the fact that he has any semblance of sanity is amazing, just because of, I've gone through financial records like this, not to this extent, not to this extreme level. I've done like 6 months worth of scouring on an account, and by the end, you're just like, this dude's doing multiple decades of review. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of those things, and I love how, again, they show how this does affect him. One, he wasn't the most stable when he started, but by the end, this really does push him over the edge. I'm reminded of, The Accountant, the movie The Accountant. What's his name? I'm drawing a blank on Ben Affleck. Starred in it. Where that was another movie where you really do see financial breakdown and true financial analysis of a business, of what you can learn just by following the numbers. And that, this has that same kind of feel to it. I was absolutely loving that.
I love that his company's the driving force behind this. That they are the oldest accounting firm, and they're using renewal actually to launder money, so that way they can just. That's why his boss is controlling it. I guarantee you that his supervisor that was in there earlier got a major raise for continuing to keep Edward off the track. It's an interesting sort of twist where he is smack in the middle of the front lines of this whole event. And I like that he's reaching out to Batman at this point. Batman, I need your help. You're the person I need to reach out to. So it's an interesting sort of exploration here. I love that there's more to this story. Like we're 3 issues in, and it's already, because it's prestige format, it's a little bit of an extended page count, and I love that there's more to the story, more to be told.
I'm trying to remember from the movie if there was any contact that the Bat had with him before any of this happened. I don't remember there ever being until Riddler started dropping bodies.
Right. Well, here's what you don't know, though. Behind the scenes, what contact did the Riddler have with him that he doesn't know about?
Right. Yeah, could that guy that was the standing on the stoop, could that have been Batman the whole time? Mm-hmm. We don't know.
Yeah.
I doubt it, but I'm leaning more towards that's a figment of his imagination. But again, who knows if any of these people that he's run into was already the Bat.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, it's one of those things I love. I love that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, the way the story's being crafted has been just, it's something just really enjoyable to read, just sitting back. And again, I'd love to talk to this, he's an actor, but he did a brilliant job in creating this story that I'm like, I can't just say he's an actor. He's a writer too. This is something amazing.
Well, how do you know he's not? I mean, like, right. That may, I can't,
yeah, I don't know.
I'm not going to pretend that I know his whole story.
Yeah.
He may be a regular writer. I mean, that may be, he may be overall a creative, and do really cool things. I'll tell you right now, I don't know, I just read this. He's a writer.
I'll read anything else.
He's a writer.
Yeah. I'll read anything else this guy does. He's on my list of, if I see another story by him or anything by him, written by him, I'm in on it.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, this has been outstanding. I hope this isn't the last we get to see of him doing. I like to see him do more comic work because this is really great.
Yeah.
At the very least, I'm really glad we got this one.
Come on, Skreel. Let's pay these Plutonian beam makers a visit.
Our next discussion is on Shazam! Nope, didn't work this time. Fury of the Gods, Special Shazamily Matters. First story, Billy Batson and the Shazamily in the Door to Death, written by Zachary Levi, DJ Cotrona, and Colleen Doran. Art by Freddie Williams II. Colors by Andrew Dahlhaus, with letters by Dave Sharp. Next, we've got Darla in Darla's Keepers, written by Faith Herman and Amanda Diebert. Art and color by Erica Henderson, and letters by Josh Reed. Pedro in The Big Game, written by DJ Cotrona and Tim Seeley. Art by Jorge Corona, with colors by Sarah Stern. Letters by Patrick Brousseau. Shazam Family in Crocodile Catastrophe, written by David F. Sandberg and Scott Collins. Art by Scott Collins. Colors by John Kalisz, with letters by Dave Sharp. Eugene in Time Out, written by Ross Butler, Josh Trujillo, with art and color by Andrew Drillon, letters by Wes Abbott. Mary in Darla's Birthday, written by Grace Caroline Curie, art by Damian Fulton, color by Nick Filardi, letters by Justin Birch. Freddie in Dogtown and Blue Boy, written by Adam Brody and Kenny Porter, art by Mike Norton, colors by Alan Pasalacqua, with letters by Ferrarin Delgado. Billy Batson in Leadership Qualities, written by Henry Gayden, art by Scott Godlewski, Godlewski, colors by Alex Guimaраes, letters by Sada Temofonte, covers by Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair, variant covers by Stephen Byrne and Logan Fairbearer.
Don't forget Sen. Don't forget Sen. Covers by Sen, too.
Oh.
S-E-N.
S-E-N? Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. Missed that one. And again, apologies to name butchering and even misspelling of names sometimes as I was reading them.
So, DJ Cotrona, and I might be butchering his name, but that's the adult Pedro.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, all these stories have of actors, acting talent that is involved that has been creating these stories, which is really kind of cool. That's the twist with this one. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Due to how long it took to read off the writers of that thing, we're pretty much running out of time. No, I really enjoyed this. I've been really Shazam happy at the moment. I'm actually looking forward to going back. I want to read the Jerry Ordway series, The Power of Shazam, and kind of like go back and delve into that because I've just been really enjoying the Shazam world. I'm excited that we're going to be getting a new Mark Waid book. I'm excited. This has been great. I liked this anthology a great deal because this focused on the fact that in the Rock of Eternity, there's all these doors. And these doors go to secret rooms. And these rooms are being cataloged by Eugene. But Billy's trying to gather them all together to start, having these team bonding experiences and things like that. And in each story you've got here, you've got different adventures that are driven by the fact that they open a doorway and let's see what's there.
Yeah.
The Rock of Eternity is like maybe one of the coolest layers around because of that ability to travel from place to place. And you're Shazam, right?
Yes. And again, I loved how these stories all did build off of the first movie. Because you think back to the end of the first movie, like, guys, we got a lair. And now we're seeing how they turn that into the lair with the big screen TVs, with the couches, with having movie night, having, popcorn and candy, and just the way they decorate the different demons that they fought last movie with the various funny stuff they put on it. And again, these are kids who are in these superhero bodies. And I love that that's something in the movie that I absolutely love. They really did a brilliant job with. But again, in these stories, they continue on that mindset. They continue on with that. And, some of them are a little bit more mature than others. Some of them, again, I love the fact that it's Eugene because it fits his personality, that he's really going through and documenting and trying to catalog what everything is and exploring on stuff, something we see later on in the movie that plays out. This for me was a really fun read. And I read this obviously before seeing the movie, so that was kind of a neat little lead with the movie, seeing the birth of some of the stuff that happened in the movie. So I was enjoying this a lot.
One of the things I really enjoyed about this particular opening story was this idea that they go to this paradise. It's like, wow, we got everything, and this is ours. Of course it's ours. Why? Because it's the door, and the Rock of Eternity is our lair. So, of course, whatever's behind the door is ours as well, right? I mean, that shouldn't be a thing. But I love, we're starting to see that dog bowl, and that was the first key that, hey, isn't that funny? With that big bone on it, it looks like an oversized dog dish. Yeah. And then we see, Cerebus, that giant monster, three-headed monster, and the fight that goes on with that was so cool. That's just not it. It's like, who dares open the book? Who dares disturb the sleep of the dead? And you get to see this turn into this what was paradise turns into this horror story. Yeah. And I don't care how powerful you are when you've got zombie after zombie and dead creature coming after you. It's horrific. They end up finding a way out of there, but I love the intensity of it. You get to see, again, this family interacting. And them trying to figure out how to take care of each other, how to work with the powers together. I really enjoyed seeing that. And I liked how the story ended this cliffhanger of, the end, ? And the hand coming out. Yeah. Yeah. It was a cool little story. I really enjoyed that as an opener.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, Freddie Williams' artwork, come on. It's
yes.
Wonderful. And that was something I liked about all these books where they did shift the artwork around and different ones have a different feel. Different stories had a different look and different feel to it. Again, this was I've always said Freddie's artwork to me is that modern twist on the classic storybook art. So the classic comic book with that modern twist and feel to it. So I loved, seeing that it opened with this. But again, how quickly this went from paradise to Hades to zombies, but also just a little bit where it's Darla playing around with the doggy. Oh, the sweet little doggy, rubbing the belly. I was like, this is again perfect usage of her. Again, they tamed the dog of hell.
Dude, Pedro at one point in time was fighting with a fly swatter.
Yes,
that was super cool.
Yeah.
It had great zombie action, where there was some great zombie effects, like the eyeball popping out, all those kind of pieces. I mean, there's a lot that happens here, a lot of detail in this. And it's one of the things you and I are both big fans of Freddie's art. I love the attention to detail. It's the little things that you end up seeing that were super cool. Like even the point where, Darla was on the stomach of the dog at one point in time, and you got to see that, and that was really cool. It's just such a neat little way of handling this story with those little details.
Well, Also, the funny thing is when you get to the ending, when they seal up the door, one of the signs is, very cute doggy.
Yeah, that's funny. Yes, exactly. So the next story is Darla's Keepers, and it was great to have a Darla-focused story because she is one of my favorite characters. Her childlike, whether she's the adult version or, obviously the non-Shazam version, there's something cool about seeing her interacting with these worlds. And she's in this little world that just looks like this beautiful little gorgeous world that looks like something out of My Little Pony or something like that. And you get why she's like so drawn into it. But that's not the whole story, right? She goes missing and her family has to go after her. And they're pulled into the reality of this world, right? Where it's not, everything is not exactly what it seems.
Well, yeah, and again, them working as a team. Them, and that was the funny thing, like one of the big thing in the movie, how they had these great moments and they flub it at the end. I loved in all of these, they don't really have that flub. You see them working together well. In these weird situations, they do a really good job. And even in the movie, in the really weird situations, they did a good job. With some of the more, I don't want to say simple tasks, but some of the more non-supernatural tasks, they ended up being the fiascos and making mistakes. But this, for me, was a really great, again, as you said, great Darla story, great team story, where in the end, they kind of figure, well, especially Darla figures out, hey, this is mine. I drew this. This is my world. I know this. And Darla's the one who comes up with the exit by saying, hey, I can just draw a door.
Right.
And she did. And I was like, that for me was like, this is a really cool story for her. But also, again, this artwork really fit Darla's mindset. You can see, how this would fit in with her groove and her style. And
with all the doors that are there, each door having different rules. When you go in there, it's a completely different... This was a world that ended up being crafted completely by Darla. I like that everyone has a different sort of piece. I also like the shifting between characters, right? So we got that, and then we got, the baseball game. Now the baseball game's being played, and Pedro's getting a chance, and he keeps trying to find a way to get good reception in the Rock of Eternity so he can watch the game, and falls through a door because of it. And which takes him to this really cool world where there is a war going on. And he is thrust into the middle of the war, and yet during that, he's still trying to get a reception for the game, which was really awesome.
There's important stuff. It's a baseball game.
Right. And as he's continuing to go through the battle, it's this idea of, okay, I'm going to fight the people that are here, and he gets in touch with this one creature that gives him his wishes. So he's able to get anything he wishes for, except like he's got all these TVs, he's got all these snacks, he's got everything that you need to have a great game, except reception for the game, which goes back to his original problem. And it totally defeats the whole purpose of being inside that world. I did like the ending where the creatures that he was, one of the creatures that he was fighting came back with him, and he's teaching that creature about baseball. The creature that granted him his wishes came back with him as well. It was kind of cool to see these endings that were fun and uplifting and positive, because that matches the world of Shazam. It's one of the things I really dug about this film was it was fun and not afraid to have a good time. There's always a sense of danger. There's a sense of, how are they going to get out of this mess? How are they going to get out of this crisis? But it's also, there's a fun factor that remains that is an important balance. And the comic captures that as well, which I think is really important to the atmosphere of the movie. We just talked about Riddler in the last segment, which is a very dark world, right? The Batman world, it's the movie film world. This, very sharp contrast. And I loved that we're doing 2 movies-based books, but that the books could tonally not be more different. And they should be, because these films tonally couldn't be more different. I really liked the ending of that. And I liked, the ending of this being game over, and then we're moving on to the next particular. These stories were good length, because yes. I felt like they had enough page count that they told a story that had some really cool, interesting stuff going on, and had a nice beginning, middle, and ending, left you sometimes with thoughts, as far as, okay, where do you think it's going to go from here, and leave you with that kind of imaginative aspect to it. But then it jumped on to the next story, which this one the crocodile catastrophe one, I was really looking forward to because this is a prequel to something that happened the last time they went through and looked at doors. And that was cool.
Yes, I know. That again, nice ties with movies. Again, different groove, different style, but also it fit what the story being told. I like this a lot because again, you had to go back to the one movie to see where this came from. No, now we're seeing the rest of the story. And again, the little funny moments in the movie, I keep saying in the book, in the series going on right here, didn't take away from any of the action going on. Just like in the movie, when you have the little funny bits, it doesn't take away from it. When they're fighting the crocodiles and the crocodiles are winning and just, they're throwing people around with anti-gravity. Hey, guys, you can fly. Oh, yeah. And they're flying. And with the one device, hey, you're super strong. Break it. Oh, okay, yeah, we're free. Little funny bits, but never took away from the actual usage of this or the actual seriousness of the fight. And that's something for me that this crocodile piece had that I really enjoyed about, again, nice tie-ins with movies, but also the tie-in of the groove and the flow of the movie also being seen in the comic.
Yeah. And that's something that was important. I like the idea that their conquest, they've realized, okay, we've got these other people around, so we're going to not only do a conquest of our world, but theirs. And that's the whole point right now is it doesn't matter what's going on in our world. It's how can we take over that? And they're using magic for the purpose of trying to gain control of the world, gain control of their powers, really overcome them. It's magic versus magic because their powers are all magic-based as well. And I like how the family's working as a team to come up with solutions to the predicaments they're put in, right? Because we had that anti-gravity magic at one point in time that's preventing the two boys from being able to fly. Darla's rolling out to them, guys, you're not stuck. You're superheroes. You can still fly.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see the family being a team, pulling off of the different experiences that they would each have where, hey, try this. And that part worked really well.
Yeah, and I loved in the end how the crocodiles tried to de-evolve them and realized, that's a big mistake. And so she evolves herself into a more intelligent being, realizing, this is not a smart plan. We're just going to take them back to humans so they don't do any more damage, and we're just going to live our life in peace. And I liked how that was the solution that ended up playing out. You always get in the movies where any of the comic stories where, it always starts off with a fight, and sometimes you punch the bad guy. Sometimes it's an intelligence thing. Sometimes it's the strategery that wins out. Sometimes it's a physical punch to the face. I liked how this story ended up being more of an intelligent battle.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see as this story went on. It wraps up with, that evolution that you mentioned, but we forgot to evolve Freddy back to where he belonged. It was a fun ending. Eugene's story was really cool because I'm a gamer. I love seeing that kind of stuff. And I liked how each story just had its really cool theme. And this was him as a gamer kind of taking a look at the whole Shazam world and his interactions day to day as not only as a Shazam, but as a member of this foster family and what that looked like. I just liked seeing his interaction with the world because we don't get to see him. There's characters like him and Pedro and to a certain extent, I guess anybody who's not like the main two, which would be Freddy and Billy, who they get moments, they get their story advancement, and I really enjoy all the aspects of it, but there's more stories to be told, more fleshing out. There's a sequence in this scene where he's flying around, and you get to see him interacting with animals like the squirrel and things like that, and just his view of the world was really compelling to me. I really enjoyed seeing him interact with the world in a very different way than the others.
Yes. Yeah, and again, it does show, it gives us a side of this kid. And you think back into both movies, he was there, he's part of the team, but he never really had a good chance to shine. And this was, because Billy, Mary, Darla, Freddy, those are the ones who had the most character growth or character usage in both movies. Unfortunately, because of the size of the team, not everybody can get as much time. So he was somebody who did get lost in the shuffle. We see him, we understand him. He's the gamer, and then like in the first movie, he was the guy who was actually able to find Billy's mom. So there's that intelligence to him. But this was a really neat perspective, and I like the fact that it was more of him in his mind. It was more of the thought balloons. There was no actual major dialogue going on in the story. It was all just it was told predominantly in the photos and the images versus the actual story. And I loved how when he realizes when he sees the one kid acting kind of bratty, he's like, I kind of do that as well. And I love that growth of him when he realizes that, oh man, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't do that. It's kind of neat, just again, seeing that little growth of the kid.
Well, it's also, though, it isn't just being bratty. It's about sometimes getting too lost in the gaming world, disconnecting from the real world and being stuck in gaming. Finding that balance between real life and real interactions and what, here's the thing. I'm a gamer. I love gaming. I love comics. I love movies and things like that. There's a balance that you got to find. It's my job's important too. Interacting with my wife's important too. Doing this type of thing, doing the podcast is important too. These kind of interactions. It's finding balance and not getting stuck in one thing, not being over-dominated by one thing. And it's very easy to get lost in any hobby and any interest and not interacting with others, not even not experiencing the world. In his case, he's experiencing the world, and that's what opened up that part of, oh, geez, was I like that kid, which is an excellent point that you're making. I love that Rosa's recognizing the need to connect with him, and when he vanishes, she's like trying to connect with him by bringing the gaming platform out to him and saying, let me extend the other olive branch this way because, maybe that's why he stepped away. Maybe that's why he's not around right now because he was missing. All he had done is gone to the park, but in her case, it was like, is he withdrawing because we just had this argument? How can I extend an olive branch to him and maybe understand his world, be a part of his world, maybe open that doorway? And from a synergy standpoint, he's coming there wanting to be more a part of her world and wanting to open that doorway. I thought it was cool, the way that they were both. It showed good parenting, in what she was doing, where she's like, I can't lose this kid, but, maybe extend the olive branch a little bit and dip my toe into understanding him a little bit more so maybe he will relate to me. And I liked how they both kind of arrived at that same spot. It was cool. Yeah. The Darla's birthday story was really fun, where it was written by the actress who plays Mary. And it was kind of cool to see her, walking the dogs and kind of trying to prepare for Darla's birthday inside the doorways that are completely found in this world. Like trying to find, gadgets and trinkets and things that would be good gifts for Darla from these unique and mysterious worlds.
And one of the things I liked about this story on the artwork, because like in the current movie, the same actress played Mary and Super Mary.
Yeah.
When you look at the artwork, the way she's drawn, the same face, same features, just in and out of the costume. So they kept up with that same kind of, that same type of design. It's the same person, the same body. And again, with Mary, it made sense for me, it made sense in the movie that they did that because of she is older than all of them. And it would, she's already grown into an adult. So when she powers up, she's not physically changing as much as the others are.
True.
I thought that was a neat usage of this artwork. And again, this art styling going with this, especially some of the really cool stuff that the different worlds that she's going to get that neat looking unicorn, that the ruby and plant unicorn special birthday gift for Darla. I love that. This was a really cool art to style for this story being told.
Yeah, that was something that I really enjoyed. You're right. The art choice was in there. And it was it kind of matched Mary and Darla, in the sense that you could see Darla loving the things that were pulled from that world. But I liked her being that big sister, where she's like, she needs that from me. I think it showed a lot about Mary, where Mary recognizes that she's that person. She's kind of, I think really good big sisters do this kind of thing where they look and take care of that person, and they kind of model like ideal behaviors for the younger sister. And you can see how she's having a major impact on Darla. Darla's going to have just a good life and be a good, well-rounded person because she's got somebody like Mary in her life. I really liked that part of the story. It sounds trite to say that, but it was something that really stood out for me in this story, was really focusing on the relationship between two and how this little sub-relationship in the family is really important to identifying who these characters are and why I like them so much.
And again, also showing Mary just with her wisdom of Solomon. No. But no, showing again, she's not just going to punch the dinosaurs or not just thing. She's actually interacting with them, talking to them, finding out what's going on. She's recognizing that the one little dinosaur that took the thing isn't some supervillain that needs to be blasted. And I liked, again, that fits who the character was in the movies, who the character is in the comics even. This is a good Mary story, but it's also, again, as you said, a really cool influence on her and Darla. I love that, especially the ending where it's like, hey, how would you like to meet some dinosaurs? And she's going to take it. Just in my head, I can see the story that happens. I'm like, oh, that's going to be fun. I want to see that story of those two, of her hanging out with the talking dinosaurs.
This story, the Freddie Freeman story, the Captain Marvel Jr., Adam Brody written story, was super cool.
Yeah.
Because it's a boy and his dog story, right? Yeah. And this reality of, okay, I got superpowers right now. I can do anything. I can rescue this dog, and can I keep it? And how does that work? And he's taking a look, and he's recognizing that. I'm sorry I can't take you to your real home yet. This is just temporary until I repay my parents for the hole I kicked in the wall. Hey, I know what it's like not to have a home, okay? But you have a real one now, I promise. And he's trying to find an opportunity for this dog to live in this barn and to really be able to continue on. It's super interesting how he's, visiting this dog and developing a relationship with the dog. It was really, really cool to see more of a grounded story when he's in full-on, Shazam mode, which is fun. Because sometimes that type of storytelling is happening a lot more when they're out of the costume and in their kid mode. I like that this took the chance of saying, we're going to go all on adult Freddy, but this is adult Freddy being kid Freddy at the same time, which was cool.
Well, and again, that was something that Adam Brody did really good in the movie, in where he really did kind of adopt some of the mannerisms of his younger version.
Yep.
And I think that was something that I really enjoyed. And again, him interacting with Gus, just that sweet guy Gus he's on this guy's farm. It's his property, but the guy's cool because he thinks it's Superman. It's just one of those super guys. And hey, that's a cool dog. I'm all right with it. I love just how this whole thing, how this again flowed out so nicely. That they didn't say, hey, every story's got to be action. Every story's got to be this thing. No, this is about who these guys are, who these kids are. And I thought that for me was, a really neat, the fact that they didn't say, we got to make every story about punching bad guys. No, this is a boy and his dog, and it's an absolute wonderful story. And again, there was some of the moments when, he messes up and he realizes, oh, sorry about that, boy. Yeah, okay, and even like when he shoots the dog droppings with the lightning because he's not going to pick it up and it freaks the dog out. Oh, sorry about that. I won't do that again. And then even dealing with the crooks when he realizes, he kind of did steal their dog.
Yeah, and that stuff was really, really interesting, was seeing that particular. And I love that he and Gus are building this relationship. He wants this dog to have a stable life. And I can see how these kids who are foster kids are really focused on a stable life, not just for themselves, but with others and with pets and, just everyone having that piece. This is cool because it's a Mike Norton, Alan Pasalacqua, and Alan, a longtime friend of the show. Adam Brody and Kenny Porter were the writers on this one. I really enjoyed this story. It was just a fun, good-looking story. Again, Another different art take, but really set and grounded. Like, you have to believe that this farm is someplace that's peaceful, serene, and you want to hang out in, because you got to believe that, like, this is exactly the best place for this dog. Freddie should be going to wanting to visit this dog here. He's given this dog a much better home and made a tough choice, a mature choice that, I don't know. I look back at myself, around my high school years. I don't know. I would have been ready to do this. I would have been very upset about doing this. But you see Freddie growing. He's growing more into an adult, and you get an idea of who he's going to be. And I really liked that. I liked that aspect of these stories. These are good kids.
Yes. And one of the things I liked about artwork on this story, the ending one, when he's taking Gus and the dog flying, I like the fact that Gus is wearing a thicker, heavy winter coat. Didn't notice that until I was doing my art read through. I was like, yes, he would need a thicker, something thicker to actually deal with, the temperatures and the cold wind whipping as he's free falling. I like that choice.
Yeah. So this last story is written by a screenwriter, Henry Gayden, and it's really the story about Billy just discovering the fact that he's trying to be a leader of this team. And we know from the movie that it was so much more than that. What he's trying to do is keep his family together. And, it's this kid who was rebelling against the idea of family, but has lost so much. And now that he has it, he wants to hold on to it. And I think we've all been at that point in time where we're going to hold on. And sometimes we hold on too hard. Sometimes we hold on for too long. Instead of, letting go and realizing that other people need to be able to develop their own identities. They need to be able to grow, and you need to be able to grow and trust that those people, if they really care, they're going to still be there, and they're still going to want to be a part of your life, and they're still going to, as they evolve and grow, they're going to evolve and grow with you. It's hard to build that trust in yourself. I loved his books like How Not to Suck at Being a Leader. He's grabbing just a whole series of books about leadership and qualities that he's going to go read in the Rock of Eternity as he's trying to pull the family together. He's throwing out quotes that he doesn't even understand, that he's pulling from, from different boxing movies and things like that. One step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time. And they're like, what does that even mean? It was such a great sequence because, he's trying really, really hard, but there's no continuity what he's doing. When something isn't working, it's not quite paying out the way he wants to and not leading to that cohesiveness that he's looking for. Okay, let's try the next thing. Let's try the next thing. And he's very erratic in this because he's trying too hard and he's not really taking a breath, relaxing and thinking things through. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Well, and I loved some of the bits like where, because they're in Philly, it's, they've got all those historical buildings and buildings on fire. Billy's like, oh, we got a plan here. They take the water tower and they use the lightning to break it. And then you see the news article, Philly fiascos, demolish historical building. Idiots drop water tower on birthplace of America. Absolutely love seeing that. And you think back in the movie when they had all the clips on the wall, the newspaper articles on the wall down in the Rock of Eternity. These are all clips that were on the wall there. I was like, this is absolutely brilliant. I love this.
What's interesting is Billy's not catching it. Billy's in trying to hold everyone together, he's not realizing that they all have their own lives. Mary has a job. Darla's trying to find cats, and rescue them and return them home. Eugene's trying to catalog all the doors because he's very number driven and things like that. And Pedro's trying to discover who he is. Like there's some doorways and some questions that are being answered. So he's trying to call the meeting and they aren't coming, not because they don't care about him. It's because they're developing their own path. They're learning who they are as a person. And it's really, really great. Mary showing up at the Rock of Eternity was a good piece because, she's similar to what she did with Darla earlier. And this story really kind of is a companion piece to that story, was this idea of, her sitting down and talking through leadership and being the older sister because she's the older one. And she and Billy are closest in age, where there is that kind of relationship. And this opens the doorway to him and going to talk to the pediatrician to get advice. I like that this was a direct lead into the start of the movie. That was really smart. I didn't expect it. And it made a ton of sense. It gave us a little backstory that led us right into the movie. This is a very, very good book. And if you haven't had a chance to read it, it's okay. I read it after the movie, believe it or not. And it holds up just as well when you're like, oh, that's what they were doing with this thing. Very cool. I like the idea. And you read it beforehand, which had been a neat experience walking into the film
definitely.
with this backstory. Yeah. It was good. This is a good anthology.
He is called Hawkman. His gauntlets possess awesome powers.
Jim, I wanted to shout out real quick as we kick off Speeding Bullets. There's a couple of books that I've read that I thought were really good. Shazam Thundercrack, which is, I've been kind of in a Shazam frenzy because I really enjoyed Shazam Fury of the Gods. And I read this. It's one of those DC Kids line books, but it's fun. I mean, so it follows elements of the storyline from the first movie from Shazam. I mean, in the sense that it introduces the family, introduces, the fact that Billy got his powers and stuff like that, which is told from the perspective of Freddy. But then it kicks into its own little side story that's broken apart over multiple chapters of Billy becoming a football player. And what that looked like at school, and the fact that, you've got this kid who is Shazam part of the time trying to navigate a world where he's also trying to be a quote-unquote normal kid. And what I love about that is you've got a kid who's a foster kid with a foster family who, I like the family aspect of it. It's something that you and I both gravitated towards in the film. So this was a page turner, and I really read it for the purpose of is this for me at all? It was a really nice diversion because it was just something different in my reading library. I get a lot of these and they stockpile because I'm trying to stay caught up on so many books. I've got that Bruce Wayne one that came out recently too, which I haven't read yet. But this one, read start to finish, really great story. I'm not going to spoil anything other than if you're looking for a Shazam story that you don't have to have like any continuity to follow, it's fun like the movies and just it's kind of its own thing. This Shazam Thundercrack's a good read. And then I read last night the Unstoppable Doom Patrol, which just came out, and really liked this book. Where are you at with Doom Patrol? Because we don't really, we haven't had a chance to really talk a ton about Doom Patrol. I know, there's been obviously the TV series on HBO Max, and which was originally on the DC app. There's been some comics. Are you a Doom Patrol fan?
I watch it and read it when we talk about it.
Okay.
And it's funny because every time I do, I enjoy it. And sometimes it'll get me on a run where I'll read it for a little bit, but it never holds me for whatever reason. I never go out on my own. Like this latest issue that came out, I haven't read it. I probably will get to it, but I haven't had a chance to yet, or even thought, I got to make sure I read that. It is one of those things where, and I can't even put my finger exactly on why it doesn't hold me and lock me in as an ongoing thing, but every single time I read it, I enjoy it, and some of the stuff we've talked about have been over the edge, weird and, quirky. And I'm like, okay, this is a little bit odd, and I like it, and same thing like with the TV show. I really enjoyed the TV show. But it wasn't anything. I was like, I got to make sure I keep watching this. I got to make sure I keep watching this. I usually only think about the show when we talk about it.
Did you like Lazarus Planet?
Yes.
So if you like the Lazarus Planet event, Doom Patrol spins out of it. So the first issue takes place in Gotham, and the first story arc's taking place in Gotham. So it's Doom Patrol coming to Gotham City for that reason. The team lineup is Robot Man, Negative Man, Elasti-Woman. They're introducing Beast Girl into this, who's a cool character, and the Chief. The Chief is Jane.
Okay, cool.
Which, if you know about Jane,
yeah,
the Chief in this is one of Jane's personalities. So there's that element going on. The artwork is fantastic. It's Chris Burnham art. I really enjoy the art and the colors. It's very Doom Patrol. Dennis Culver's the writer. I really enjoyed this series. It's very accessible. You don't need to know anything. We've got Monsieur Mala and the Brain, are a part of this storyline too. There's some forward movement though on how they're handling the villains, and what the Doom Patrol's investigating is people who have been affected by Lazarus. So this Lazarus pit thing that happened, the Lazarus planet thing that happened, has affected a lot of people. Their powers have changed. Or they've got powers. So they are directly investigating some of these situations. And what it really shows is, we all think to ourselves like, oh, great, it would be cool to join a superhero team, right? And be a part of that group and that world and things like that. Well, there's elements in this particular story where they're pitching like, hey, you want to be a member of our team? And they're getting flat out turned down, because of the fact that,
Doom Patrol.
yeah, it's like, why would I want to join you and be a part of it? So some of that was cool in the situation. I really like the fact that we get to see some new experimentations with the powers of what's going on with Negative Man and his energy and everybody else. Batman and Robin have an appearance in it too. So it's a great one. If you're a Batman fan, this is a great issue to read for that particular reason. And it's Batman and the Tim Drake Robin, to be clear. It's a really good story. I really enjoyed this as a first issue. This is one, if you've ever been interested in Doom Patrol at all, or even if you're kind of like, I don't know, I want to dip my toe in it, but you don't need to know anything. It's incredibly accessible. They give you everything you need right from this storyline. There's an appearance by another DC character who is a part of the Suicide Squad. I won't spoil who, but that's a part of the story as well. A lot happens in this first issue. I was really excited. I kind of fall where you do with Doom Patrol, where anytime I've read it, I've really enjoyed it. I loved the Young Animals run that came out recently. I thought that was a great run. I've enjoyed, and I've been gradually reading Grant Morrison's run, which I didn't get into at the time just because it was a budgetary thing, and I've read and appreciated it. I've read other runs along the way that I've really enjoyed as well of Doom Patrol, but it's been one of those books like you. Time is really more than anything else that I've jumped off of Doom Patrol. This one grabbed me out of the gate and it felt different. There's an excitement right now. I think it's this Dawn of DC thing. I saw Peter Rios recently on his Daily Rios feed was talking about the Dawn of DC and this whole event and how it's got him excited. And this is the way that you do kind of a rollout. And I couldn't agree with him more. It just got me thinking about this episode and some of the things I wanted to talk about. And this is one of the books that really, I think, has benefited for me from Dawn of DC, because I'm enjoying this rollout and the way they're staggering it, where you're not getting like 50 new books in the month. We're rolling out like a few new books at a time and giving you a chance to wrap your head around them and enjoy them. It's making it easy for me to jump on these new titles like Doom Patrol when it comes out right away. And so last night, I had just gotten done reading the Shazam Thundercrack, and I'm like, I want to jump back into continuity now. I saw that, and I'm like, ooh, let me go ahead and read this. And boy, did I not regret it. Good-looking book and some great writing on this. The team gets it. They get how to do an accessible, fun Doom Patrol story. Has the right balance of wacky, but also you don't feel like Batman and Robin being here such a weird thing. I actually wanted to see like what would that reaction be like. It was cool. It was a really good first issue. So it's a recommendation. It's the reason why I wanted to bring this one up, because it got me excited afterwards for Doom Patrol.
One thing I'm wondering though, when you were reading the Shazam, were you going thunder, thunder?
No. I was not doing that.
See, I would have been doing that the entire time.
I know you would. Wait, here's the thing. I understand you doing that. I would not have done that. But it is one of those books where it gives you that. It's the fun factor you're talking about actually is what a lot that I got out of this. So it is that kind of story where it feels like the movie. Nice. So actually, the music that you're playing in there, the more I sat there and said no at first, and I'm like, I don't know if I reread it now, I would be doing that no problem because of the fact that it was that kind of story where that music would be appropriate. So it actually works. So I'm looking over at the Facebook group, and James William Stubbs did a post with this first Batmobile, And it was constructed over 3 years from 1960 to 1935 by Forrest Robinson. And the Batmobile was based on a 1956 Oldsmobile 88 chassis and drivetrain. And boy, is that a good-looking vehicle. Like, I want to drive that around.
Yes, I 100% would drive that around right now. That thing looks awesome.
We got this Alex Ross of... It's Christopher Reeve and George Reeves. You know, it's like a mirror image of the two. They're like in a spinning, almost like that, you know, spinning hotel door or, you know, the revolving door. I loved seeing the two of them, one hand on the other, like it was a mirror image of each other. That is such a wicked cool piece of Alex Ross art. I will say that's one, if that's available somewhere that I can get it and get it framed, that is one that I want framed, like genuinely.
Yes.
It's got to be available. I don't know where and how it like came about, but I want framed. That is a very good
nice
looking
print
one
to have up on the wall.
Everett Starr was talking on the forum about storage space, which this has been like, here's the thing. He's asking a great question. He's talking about the fact that, you know, his collection's grown to a certain point in time. I think the storage problem has been something comic fans have talked about since I've been a comic collector. And I really get it. You know, I've had to pare back my collection based on moving from time to time. I've had to pare it back financially. I've had to pare it back due to space. I am like the craziest collector because what ends up happening is I will sell off things for the purpose of trying to make new space. And then I will get hooked on something else. Like, you know, it's collected editions like omnibuses and absolutes and things like that. And I'm filling up the same amount of space that I so-called made before with just new stuff. And I love it. I mean, it's part of the fun of collecting. But it goes to, like, now I've got, where do I put this? You know, I'm running out of space on bookshelves for these type of editions. But yet, I am really that weird digital fan now. Because he's talking about, has anyone switched directly to straight digital due to storage space? I have, sort of. When I say sort of, it's no, I'm still getting paper product. It's just a different kind of collecting. So I really haven't gone straight digital. What I've done is I've gone to digital for my monthly reads, you know, like getting the individual books, unless it's something that's not available or like alternative covers, things like that you can't get digitally. So I really enjoy that type of collecting. But for me, it's more collected editions now. So I'm not really cutting down on storage space at all. It's just I've shifted the collection. I don't know. I think I'm really worried with digital that, you know, what if Comixology folds tomorrow? Then I don't have my books.
Yeah.
So that's probably my biggest concern right now is, and I think it only increased when there was the switch from Comixology to Amazology and the fact that there were certain books that I could no longer finish that way. So I'm like, oh, it's hard. And I was more the early, out of the two of us, I was the early digital adopter. So I love the platform. I love reading it on my iPad. I like that method of, you know, traveling around and being able to pull up whatever books I want on, you know, as far as for the immediacy of the read. My concern is a lot more of, I like a paper archive. So collected editions tend to be my jam because I've got my archive. Right? I can always pull out that omnibus and read it, and they can't take that from me. You know, all they can do is put out some other crazy way for me to buy
it. And we will.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. Where are you at? Like, what does your collection look like? Because he's asking a great question. Like, what do you do? So me, I'm on single issues, pretty heavily digital, but collected editions are my archive. What is your collecting situation look like? Because I think you're like kind of a different view. You do it differently than I do.
I'm actually primary digital, but I still get paper for Action, Superman, Detective, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Nightwing.
Okay.
As well as some of the special, you know, like some of the limited series, as well as some collected stuff. You know, and again, it's funny because as I say all those titles that I'm getting paper, I'm also getting those digitally. So I'm buying them twice, you know, and it's, you know, and because I'll read it primarily digitally on Izilla, but I still am getting those collections.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still getting those paper versions. And I'm trying to figure out, Dad and I have been talking about trying to figure out a way to build, the drawer boxes,
mm-hmm.
but using wood. So they're more sturdy and I can stack them higher. And of course, when we build them incorrectly and they fall over, they'll crush me. So there's that. There's a plus and minus to this whole idea that Dan and I are coming up with. But it's something we've been throwing around with. I've talked to Brother Dave about it. My one niece, Maria, is doing big-time wood shop in her high school. Mm-hmm. It's really cool that there's a high school out there in America that actually still goes, no, we want the kids to know how to make wood, to have a wood shop. So she's actually been doing that. So I this may be a Seguin family project to help me build some wooden structures for my comic books.
Do all scenarios point towards you being crushed?
Usually, yes.
Okay, because I noticed that you went to that and like you were very committed to the fact that it wasn't if I build it incorrectly, it was I'm going to be crushed.
Well, think back to Avengers Endgame, where Doctor Strange went through what, like 14 million options, and there was only one where they made it correctly or whatever the numbers were. Mm-hmm. We're in that kind of scenario.
Okay,
where I'm looking probably about 14 million possible outcomes where Jim gets crushed. Whether it's completely fatal or just a minor accident. And there's that one that'll work. Now, it may happen. It may not. I don't know. We'll find out.
I just want to see the movie Everything Whatnot All at Once. Which will be great. So he is in the next post, he actually puts this alternative to the collection. And it's actually by a Harry Smith. He built an actual piece of furniture. It's a lot of what you're talking about doing here. It looks sweet. Like, I want that. Like, here's the thing. I see that and I'm like, oh man, I want singles again. Like, because doesn't that look sweet?
Oh, dude, that looks awesome. And the project that Dad and I have will look absolutely nothing like that. This is really good looking and actually well built. And so yes, that's outstanding.
But your dad's involved, right? Your dad's like. I mean, this isn't, and I don't mean this is an insult to you, but because I have no idea what kind of carpentry skills you have at all. So I'm not insulting you because you're kind of going there. So I'm going to kind of go with, if you're saying it's going to turn out bad, but your dad, your dad has skills in that, right?
Yes. Yeah, actually, yeah. Dad has some skills on building stuff and whatnot, but we do have a running joke in our family where we go to build we went to build, when my brother Dave went off to college, we were going to build him one of those trunks. One of those portable trunks that you can, carry and take to school and stuff like that. We end up building the Mighty Ungawa, this massive thing that looked larger than most people's toy chests. And we're like, oh yeah, this will work fine. And we're like, oh yeah, we made this a little bit too big. And whenever we used to bring it into college, Dave and I both were struggling to carry this thing in. It was always hysterical. And again, the Mighty Ungawa is its official name because it was just so massive. So we tend to have these ideas, and then we go a little bit over the top on the idea, and it ends up being this massive monstrosity of what we actually plan. So when we start building this cabinetry that I've got in my head right now for this, it's going to end up being something that is just ridiculous, and we're kind of looking forward to that part.
This weekend I went to Fan Expo Cleveland, and it was really sweet. It's so to the point where GalaxyCon Columbus is one I went to in December, and that was just a great convention too. GalaxyCon was much bigger, but the Cleveland event really had some great guests. We had Zachary Levi from Shazam. We had Jack Dylan Glazier. I'm butchering his name probably. It's the kid who played Freddie Freeman in Shazam. So my wife and I got a picture with the two of them because we both really loved that movie. And then we got a chance to meet Anson Mount and Ethan Peck from Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I think I'm got the TV show name right. If I got it wrong, it's the new Star Trek show, which is sweet. I really love the show. I love Pike and Spock from that show. It's really, really great. Got to see the Office cast. Got a picture with Christopher Lloyd. Got a picture with Apollo Creed. Carl Weathers. It was a really, really great event. Got to meet Winnie the Pooh. Got to meet some comic creators. Some of them are ones that you and I both know. Some of them are ones that I've been wanting to meet for years. There's a lot of gaming talent as well. It was a really cool event. And where it got me jonesing is I was thinking about how much I really enjoyed the Shazam flick. And Tom Cruise has basically seen The Flash and called the film's director to praise it. I am so excited for this Flash movie. And I'm hoping that it lives up to the hype. I'm hoping it does gangbusters at the box office, because I am super disappointed that Shazam has not. And that word of mouth hasn't somehow taken over and really pushed that movie, because Shazam was really good. And it's funny how that has really stuck with me, is how much I really enjoyed that movie. I've already pre-ordered the digital version of it on iTunes because I want to own it. I almost want, this is one of those films where I believe so much in it that I'd like to go back to the box office and see it again just to vote again. Because it was that good of a movie. So I hope The Flash is worthy of the praise that it's getting. And not only that, if it is, that the box office numbers show that. Because I'm so sick and tired of hearing about superhero burnout. I don't think that's a thing. I think it's a matter of people are being told there's superhero burnout, and people are being told how to think ahead of time. And I think that's really what's driving it more than anything else. I think it was a quality movie.
Yeah. I wish studios looked at the overall picture, not just opening weekend. They put such a heavy emphasis on opening weekend that, I don't think it's a fair assessment of a movie.
Right.
Unfortunately. And again, it's because I know a lot of the people that I talk to, I avoid the movie theater on opening weekend. I'm like, that's the time that it gets its rating, though. And it's, again, and to be honest, in fairness, I understand why people do that, because sometimes, theaters get crowded, crazy, weird stuff happens the opening weekends of movies. So I understand why people would want to avoid it. But still, it's the theater, the movie people, the producers, the makers of them, they annoy me sometimes. And just what they call a success, what they consider a success, does. I'm like, come on, guys, But it is what it is, and hopefully, hit more people like Tom Cruise talking about movies, saying, hey, this is awesome. We get more of that. The people who've seen it before can counteract the negative people who haven't seen it, who are just going to hate on it to hate. Because that's a big thing that happens on a lot of movies. There's that hate just because it's a DC movie. Hate just because it's a superhero movie. And it's not even just comic fans going against the comic movies. There's a lot of people out there who, if it's a comic book movie, they're like, I don't like it. If you haven't seen it, I don't like it. It's a comic book movie. Like, okay.
So we got DC's doing another cover series, and this one's going to be swimsuit covers. But they're doing more of a modern, where they're a little bit more tasteful and fun and things like that. They look cool. I actually did a scan through them, and there's some cool covers. I love alternate covers still.
Yes.
That's a thing that if you ask me what draws you to buy singles, Sean, one of the things that draws me to buy them is alternate covers. I really dig them because it's artwork that you can only get that way. They aren't usually put in the digital versions. I think it's a smart move by the company to keep doing them. And I like them when they're themed, because to me, it's grabbing that whole theme is kind of cool. These are well done. It's good artwork.
Oh, definitely. I dig these. When I get my individuals and all that, I always get all the variant covers. So, and when it's series like this of books that I'm not normally getting paper, I'll actually look at them and maybe get the full series. Because a couple of these I'll be getting, regularly. So I don't know. I think I may be picking up the swimsuit series.
Some books were canceled recently. that are coming up. Batgirls, which is a book I've been really digging. It's one of those I've been wanting to jump back and talk about on the show because I'm really having fun with that book, and I love the art styling on it and the storytelling. Tim Drake Robin's coming to an end too, and I'm sad to hear that. So they're both ending in June of 2023. And I don't know what's driving this, if it's sales or if it's story, because we've got things going on right now where we're kind of introducing this dawn of DC. So I don't know if that's drawing some of it, where they're kind of heading in a certain direction with the Bat universe, and maybe that's a thing. I don't know, but I'm sad to see both books go because I liked them. James William Stubbs mentioned that Robin's not really a book that he's going to miss, and you said it was probably an unpopular opinion. Actually, I like honesty in our forum. I'm glad, hey, feel comfortable to say that if it's not your cup of tea. But as he's a fan of Batgirls, and that's a great book. I'm glad to see the love for Batgirls because I really, really enjoyed Batgirls, and I'm hoping both sets of characters, because I think they have audience bases, get a chance to get relaunched into something else. Because miniseries seem to be a thing now, and which is referenced in our thread there. And I couldn't agree more.
And here's an interesting thing I'm going to say to you. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be a little bit surprised probably by it. Mm-hmm. If I could pick one of these two books to survive, only one, and I had to pick one, Batgirls would have been my choice of these two. And I love Tim Drake Robin. I'm really enjoying that series. But the Batgirl series to me has this really cool groove to it that I'm really, really digging, and I'm sad to see it go. And I think, like that. And I think it also, Tim as Robin, 100% there's longevity in what they could do with it, but they really already showed us what they could really do with the Batgirls. With all the characters, they could do some really cool stuff with this. And down the line, long-term storytelling, they could have done some amazing stuff with Batgirls. And I'm sad to see that go. Because, again, I'm worried that it's sales, a sales-driven. And, again, a business has to make money, but what's the definition of money? What's the definition of a profit? How big of a profit margin does your book need to have to continue on?
Enough to make you say there's no way we're going to cancel it.
Right. But what's that number? That's what I want to.
Wait, I'm being a putz.
No,
I know. I actually agree with what you're saying right now. I don't know, and it's not something I really research a whole lot, I will admit, as far as what that metric is now. This has got to be a crazy time, because what companies are dealing with right now is there's a reality of the market has shifted, and what I mean is, we had COVID, right? And COVID changed everything. Whether you like it or not, COVID changed everything. Comic shops are still a thing, but they're competing now with the fact that they had to have lost some people with COVID who just didn't come back. That causes lapsed readership, right? If you're not getting your fix, there's going to be those paper readers that maybe just took a break. Now they'll come back, because that happens. I've had that happen. I've never really ever stopped collecting, but there have been times where financially I've mentioned before where I had to do mail order of a couple. And when I say mail order, I did a subscription, and I had 2 books that I was getting. Yeah. And I did the year-long subscription as a holiday gift, as a way to keep reading. And that's, during my life, there have been times where that was my method for getting something, was the monthly brown paper wrapped subscription coming in. So that was a thing. But, then there was times where I've been like full on, where I was full on, completely following Marvel, except for a couple DC books, and completely following DC, except for, a couple Marvel books. And then I went all indie for a while there and was, again, kept a couple books. But, there have been peaks and troughs of things like that. But it's interesting now that comic companies have to deal with, we have some lapsed readers that probably came in from COVID. We have some readers that are digital readers. I think it's interesting now that they've got these subscription apps. And how do those work as far as, do they have an impact on numbers? Like if I do Ultra, which I've got on mine, and I really enjoy Ultra. There's certain books where even though I've bought them or I'm collecting them, in various formats, I'll read them on the DC Universe Infinite app or Marvel's Unlimited app. I've got both of those right now. And sometimes it's the convenience of that. And you saved the day with me with that, being able to use a spreadsheet to follow what I'm reading. So I don't really care whether it's Comixology or those. It's fun to, with immediacy, be able to pull some of those pieces out. I've mentioned before, and it's where you're going, I want to know how to put my vote in for these books.
Yeah.
Because I like both of these series. I will agree with you 100%, though. If you had to, and this isn't a knock on Robin. I really like Tim Drake Robin. But the truth is, out of the two, Batgirls, I think, is just different. It's filling missing like Birds of Prey piece for me, if that makes sense. I don't have a book like that. You know, I have a number of books that are like Tim Drake Robin, where I'm following a solo male character and his cast. I really like Tim Drake Robin. It's a very well written and very good looking book, but Batgirls is just different. It's filling a different itch for me, and it's really, really stylized. I love the artwork with it. It just has, and it's got 19 issues in at this point, or it's going to be 19 issues when it's done. My investment there is really strong. Zack Snyder's mysterious announcement, and it's at this con over a 3-day stretch, he's going to be showing the director's cuts of Man of Steel, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League from April 28th to April 30th. I think that's really cool, and all of the fundraising's going to AFSP, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
Nice.
So
that's good.
It's going to be in the convention's held in California, and there's also going to be live stream panels and live chats with Snyder for fans at home. So it says there's live stream panels and live chats with Snyder for fans at home. I am hoping I can participate in that because I can't go to California for that. But boy, if there's a way I can do that, and I'll gladly pay. If it's going to a good cause like that, because I like those movies. And
I'm in.
Yeah. Joe Giella passed away, and if I'm butchering it, it's Giella at 94. And I'm very familiar with his artwork, and it was cool that Tom King posted it on Twitter. But sorry to hear about that passing of a comics legend. Michael Reeves, TV pros and comics writers, dead at 92. His credits included the Batman the Animated Series, and it's really sad when you've got somebody who's been such a talent. Mask of the Phantasm was one of his projects, which that was a great... We don't really talk about that much on the show, but what a great movie Mask of the Phantasm was.
I like that movie a lot. I saw that in theaters.
I did too. That was a great one to see in the theater, and that was a great film to see in the theaters.
Yes.
There's a link to a GoFundMe in our group, and I want to appreciate our audience members who are putting these type of things up there. There is a comic creator by the name of Mark Probst, and he's done work for DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, and many small publishers since 1984. And he's just going through some tough times. I'm not going to read his whole story, but if you go to the link on our Facebook group, there's an opportunity to help out. And at the very least, in situations like this, what I ask people to do is, if financially you're not able to help out at this time, best thing you can do for Mark is share it. And I really appreciate James. James posted it up on our Facebook group. I love when people post stuff like this because it's a great way to help out, just getting the word out. Because here's the thing: if out of our Facebook group he picked up a couple of people, it's a couple of people who helped out. So those type of shares and things like that, even if you're only getting one or two other people to jump on and help somebody else because they connected to it, I think it's a really cool thing to do. Lackadaisy animated short film. I didn't know this was a thing, but it's coming in March of, it's actually already here. Came out in March of 2023. It looks kind of fun. Did you get a chance to look at that?
Yeah, it looks kind of neat.
So I'm seeing more and more about the Joker too, with like set photos and things like that. I saw Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn costume, which looks really cool. Like, I'm starting to get excited for this now. I'm tentatively excited. Like, I keep going between, can it possibly be as good as the first one? Because the first was really just groundbreaking. But I'm excited. I want to see it. It's just, the Joker movie was such a unique film that I don't think the trailers or anything I heard about it prepared me for the film that I got. I'm expecting this is very much going to be the same thing, and I'm hoping I get the same feel from it, where I walk out afterwards going, wow, I did not expect that at all. I didn't know I wanted that, but I did. And that's what Joker was for me.
same creative team behind the first movie that are doing the second one. And again, that was the big thing with me. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm in, just because it was the last movie wasn't just a comic book movie. It was such a passion piece for all the people involved, and you really saw that. For them to continue on to do the second one, I'm like, heck yeah, I'm all in. And again, with the Lady Gaga, I was like, all right, she's done some amazing stuff there. So I'm like, yes, I want to see this. So everything I see gets me even more excited, more looking forward to it. It's more of a locking in. Yes, I'm definitely going to be seeing this in the theater opening weekend.
Jared posted this, but before I actually go into his really cool post, I want to sit there and go, I want a comics bingo card. Because he mentions, anyone have this on your comics bingo card in 2023? And it's Francis Ford Coppola working on comics with Image Comics.
Outstanding.
I love this because you get kind of this snooty attitude sometimes that, comic book films and stuff like that aren't the same quality. It's crazy because it's all storyboarding, right? I mean, you can take comics and really fit them into a film format very easily because of the way that they're put together. And I love that Francis Ford Coppola is going to do that. I am excited for that. It's so I'm glad he posted that one. But I kind of want to put together a comics bingo card. And I'm pretty sure that nothing that I'm asking for it would prepare me for it. Like I'd have a crazy comics bingo card. One of them would be, please give me Starman back. This I'm excited about, a Batman-Catwoman crossover, which is called Showdown for the Dawn of DC. I'm glad to see these books cross over. I'm still jonesing for these two to be together. The cover suggests that they're not going to be on the same side, but I would love to see these two somehow get together again as a couple. And yes. I know I'm not going to necessarily get my wish, but man, I just really loved that exploration with the two and the idea that they could potentially have a future. That's the kind of storytelling progression that I would love to see out of them. It's kind of cool.
You know what? Something just popped in my head.
Okay.
I wonder if Catwoman knows the secret still. Because she wasn't in any type of energy bubble or didn't have any of the Justice League mental barriers.
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's, again, and it just popped in my head just because, again, like you, I want to see these two together. I want to see them get married. I love the moment when they were going to get married when, Bruce, told Clark it's happening. And he and Lois were right there. Those moments were it was fun reading and enjoyable. And then, of course, they have to take it all away from us. They got to take us away with, because Batman can't have any pleasure in his life. He only can have pain and suffering. So that's why part of the reason I want to have those two together, because I want him to have a happy ending.
Yeah.
I want him to have some joy in his life. And I know it doesn't always fit the character, but it can.
Well,
especially this Bat. We're getting a Bat that's evolving and changing, and he's doing more of the Team Bat family. And, the Bat and the Cat, I think, can be together. I think they could tell a story to have them together, and it would work.
It doesn't mean he has to give up being Batman, though, or that he has to have, a quote-unquote fully happy ending, just as some happiness in his life. Because the Robins provide that, too. Alfred provided that, too. It wasn't like this guy's been alone, so...
But let's look at that, though. Yeah, Alfred provided that. Alfred's dead. The Robins provided that. Most of them aren't around. Look at the relationship that he has with his son is not the most positive one. And Tim's been around a lot, but Tim's also in and out of his life. So, I don't know. I just he has
here's the thing:
of sunshine, but it's mostly just it is the shadows, and I feel bad for the guy.
But so you read the whole thing of Batman versus Robin, right?
Right,
including issue 5.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're in a good place now.
Yeah, but will it last?
I don't know. I mean, that's the ups and downs of any father-son relationship. But I mean, he's got a good relationship with Tim. He's got a good relationship with Dick Grayson. Jason Todd, it's a complicated relationship. He's an interesting sort of cat. I mean, and so it's not like it's all bad for him. He's got those people that he's been close to. Alfred being dead is a problem. I mean, and I get that. I'm very curious to see where the story goes. I'm glad that they're exploring it, whether it's good or bad. I mean, I want to see these two. So they've got me hooked on that. Like, I'm ready right now for an update on where that relationship's at. Even if it's not the news that I want to hear, you got me. I'm a fish on a hook. So Jose Luis Garcia Lopez had a 75th birthday, which is cool. What a terrific artist that guy is. Let's see. On the DC Universe Infinite community forums, there's a vote for which series will be added to their weekly backlog next, with the top 3 to the service starting in June. I like this kind of idea.
Yeah.
Getting that backlist breakout and involving that interactivity. So how much do you read the Infinite app now? I mean, is it something that you read regularly? We kind of talked about like the fact that this has been something that we've purchased and maybe haven't used it to its potential. Where are you at with that now? Like, what does your reading look like? Not just digital reading, digital paper. Like, where does that fit into your reading? Does it fit into your reading?
Yes, it 100% fits in my reading. There's a lot of books out there. At first it was just I want to read some old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was first really starting to dive into Flash, I went there. Flash. When we talk about JSA stuff, I go there, or any of the back stuff. Now it's like there's series like there's stuff that's out there. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. I want to read that.
Yeah.
And instead of me buying the digital, I'll read some of the issues here, and then maybe I'll pick up. Maybe I'll pick it up. I'll actually purchase it, or maybe I'll wait until the collected edition comes out. And that's how I'm using it now. So it's for the books that I'm not necessarily buying on either paper or 100% buying digital. I'll use that to see what's that like. The Monkey Prince series, that was something I read, using the app, versus actually.
I did too. That's a great example. It's funny that you're saying that. I was just nodding when you're saying, like, boy, what a good example that is. I got backlogged on Monkey Prince. Yeah. And
it's one of the things I'll do is I'll buy issue 1 of something.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay, this is pretty good read. But I know if it's a title that I know I'm not going to keep up on, instead of buying it, I wait and then read it on the app. That's what I did with Monkey Prince. I bought the first issue. I read it. I was like, okay, this is kind of neat. And then I just let it sit. And picked it up in the app.
Ultra is really worth it for me.
Yeah.
The move to Ultra is really like buying that premium tier and being able to have the books a month out is really helpful because I get backlogged on things. Especially when we're focusing on things for the show, I'll be reading multiple. I'll like do some back reading on a particular book, Riddler, which we talked about this episode. That was an example of a book that I needed to go back and get caught up on. So it was, not get caught up on. I was already caught up on Riddler, but I wanted to read it from the beginning to issue number 3 so we could talk about it, right? So it's an example of, being able to do that. And when I do that, I get backlogged on books because I'm doing some rereading now. And that means there's another book that I just need to get caught up on. And I'm finding I'm doing a lot of my catching up on the app because of Ultra. It's like everything's there. And it's nice to be able to do that. And your spreadsheet, like I said, I found it tedious before. Making a spreadsheet. So on my iPad, what I have is the Numbers app. I have a spreadsheet that I created where I just enter the title and the publisher and the number. And, it's nice because I can annotate on it. A book I'm reading right now, which is not DC, it's Marvel. I'm going through, I've got those Marvel, I guess essential books. I'm probably poorly paraphrasing. It's the big collected editions of the Marvel books. I have some of those digitally. And, I'll go through and read those. And I'm a huge X-Men fan. So I went back to the beginning and started reading X-Men from issue number 1, right? And I'll do that with a number of series where I'm just kind of like jonesing for something, DC, Marvel, independent, whatever. I'll read a few issues and then life gets in the way and I stop off. And what's always prohibited me from going back I do this with Disney comics too. Like, I'm into the Carl Barks stuff and, some of the classic daily newspaper strips and stuff like that. And what keeps me from going back is the fact that I get lost on where I was at. This doggone spreadsheet that you had me make, I'm like, I'm actually creating a spreadsheet and using it and seeing the value of it. Has been a game changer for me. It's now made me a lot more effective at reading some of this legacy content or even new stuff that I'm like trying to get caught up on. Like, okay, where did I last leave off on Wonder Woman, for example? I love Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's not a book that, like, I'm stockpiling because I don't love it. I just haven't gotten to it. So, going back to read Wonder Woman, it was nice to know this is the issue I left off on. This is where I need to start. Let's get moving. And so that part's been great. That's how I'm using it. And it's funny you threw out Monkey Prince. Great book, but it was one I wanted to get caught up because of Lazarus Planet. Because I'm like, oh, wow, there's like a big component of Lazarus Planet here, especially with the Devil Neza and the backstory there. Like so much, I didn't know Monkey Prince was going to be such a prominent part of Lazarus Planet, and that got me to get caught up on that book. And it's a good read. Do you like Monkey Prince?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah. Power Rangers 30th Anniversary Comic Book Celebration is on Kickstarter, so check that one out if you are a Power Rangers fan. There's a cool little post here about this is a little tete-a-tete between Red Hood and Batman that's on there to definitely check out. My Adventures with Superman. I forgot this was going to be a thing. My Adventures with Superman is going to be released on both Adult Swim Toonami and HBO Max. It's coming out this year. So did you forget about this one like I did?
Completely. 100% forgot about it.
Yeah. Jared just posted this about an hour ago when we're chatting, and I'm so glad to see this is still coming because I was excited for this when it was first announced, and it tells you how long it takes to put together an animated series. It also makes you question, like, maybe you shouldn't announce it until you're a little closer, because I completely forgot about this one. I hope we get some kind of major advertising for it, like when it gets closer. I hope it's good. It looks good.
Looks cool, yeah.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro claw for carving through metal doors.
I'd like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of the show. RagingBullets@gmail.com is the email address. If you prefer to contact us that way, RagingBullets.com is our show website. And as we release new episodes, that's where we post that information first. It feeds into Twitter and our Facebook fan page. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community, which the Speeding Bullets segment that you hear on this, where we talk about some of the DC news and happenings around the web, would not be possible without. I want to thank everyone on the team over there who participates and regularly posts really cool content. Please remember, we reference content over there and do our reactions to some of the news and content over there. The best way to read all of that content is to go to that Facebook group, to join it. Check out the articles for yourself. Thank you again to everybody who participates in that. It's really important to us. The About Us section of our show websites where you can find out how to connect with us on gaming platforms and social media. We love to connect with all of you. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what's going on over at DCBS?
We have Absolute Preacher hardcover volume 2, 50% off, only $75. We have Swamp Thing Green Hell hardcover, 50% off, only $14.99. And we have Young Alfred Payne the Butler trade paper, 50% off, only $6.49. Thank you, DCBS.
Once again, at InStockTrades.com, they have their top sellers. Power Girl Power Trip trade paperback, $39.99 regularly, 42% off, only $23.19. Adam Strange Between Two Worlds, the Deluxe Edition. $49.99 regularly, 42% off, only $28.09. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for supporting our show. Our next episode, Jim and I are going to be back with Batman One Bad Day, Ra's al Ghul special, and we're going to talk about Waller versus Wildstorm #1. We will see you next week.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim. Jim. Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't
What
mean
are you
anything
trying
by
to say?
that.
I think
Sean,
it's right
Jim,
there. Like,
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our production.